building foundation that lasts. And that's coming from Psalms 127 and 1. I'm going to read the chapter. I'm going to read the whole chapter because, y'all. So let me, I know, they know about the church what we have going on. But on Tuesdays and Friday mornings from 6 to 6:30, we have morning prayer on a prayer line. And this morning I was on the prayer line, and myself and Evangelist Rogers over there, we was on the prayer line this morning. But before I went to bed last night, I'm like, okay, God, what should I pray about? What should I pray about? Because we're talking about rebuild. Okay, um, rebuilding our community is the thing for this quarter. And I'm like, okay, God, what should I pray about? What should I pray about? What scripture should I read and everything? And nothing, 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 nothing. 4:44 this morning. 4:44 this morning. Boom, eyes open, and it's like we have the family conference going on. This week is all about, not just this week, but it's all about the family. And your scripture, your theme scripture is Psalm 127 and 1. Why don't you go on in regards to that? So I'm like, oh, cool. So got up, I did what I needed to do, got back on my bed and everything, and I read the scripture. And I'm like, oh, I'm not just gonna do just the first verse because you have to read the whole chapter. Oh my goodness, right? So I read the whole chapter this morning, and I read it in King James version and the Message version, and y'all, it's deep. It's deep. I know some of you may not be in church or so like that, but this is a church, and this is who we are. So I want to read this out of the Message version. All right, Psalms 127. It says, "If God doesn't build the house, the builders only build shacks." This is the Message version. I'm like, wow, that's completely different from the King James and the New King James version, right? If God doesn't guard the city, the night watchman might as well nap, right? It's useless to rise early and go to bed late and work your worry fingers to the bones. Fingers. Yeah, because we are. And for us who are constantly on the computer, right? Your laptop, whatever, electronics, these fingers are constantly going, right? So yeah. And it says, don't you know God enjoy giving rest to those he loves. So God doesn't want you at nighttime to be tossing and turning and worrying about this and worrying about that, because he already told you to cast his cares, right? Cast your cares upon him because he cares for you. And that's in the New Testament. But in the Old Testament, it says because he loves you. He loves us. So he doesn't want you, don't you know he enjoys giving rest to those he loves. So God enjoy giving rest to you. God enjoy laying you down at nighttime for you to sleep. All right? And so this is just like, don't you see that children are God's best gift? Hello. They are God's best gift to us. Some of us may not think so, but they are the best gift that God gave us other than his son Jesus Christ, all right? And it says, the fruit of the womb, his generous legacy. So the children are our legacy, and their children and all of that. And so we need to cultivate them, and we need to guide them and guard them, all right? So definitely. And it says, like a warrior fistful of arrows are the children of the vigorous youth. So when I read this part, I'm a big Lord of the Rings junkie. All right, I saw Nicholas, and he shooting back and getting his arrow and shooting it and everything else. and all that. And that's how I saw it. And that's how I also, like this morning, and even saying this now, that's how I saw God, like protecting over each and every one of us. Doesn't matter who we are, protecting over each and every one of us. And it says, like a warrior, fistful of arrows are the children of a vigorous youth. Oh, how blessed are you, parents, with your quivers full of children. And the word quiver, there are different meanings for this. Okay, quiver could be your emotion. Quiver could be physical. A lot of people use it at quiver can be, the sack that holds the arrow, but the definition for this over here is your blessing. It's about your blessings, how many blessings that you have, and all of that. So that's several definitions for the word quivers. And it says, with your quivers full of children, your enemies don't stand a chance against you. Now, do you not know you have your children, that one child, that three children, that 10 children, and all of you are standing side by side, okay? And you're all guiding each other and protecting one another. It says here, your enemy don't stand a chance against you. You will sweep them. You will sweep them right off your doorsteps. The other version said you will remove your enemies from your gates. Okay, and so this is so beautiful. So to just read that one verse, Psalms 127 and 1. I mean, it does justice and everything, but the whole chapter does even better, and it gets us to think about what this means. Our Family Matters conference is very special and very dear unto us, unto Pentecostal. I forgive me for everybody not being here, but it's okay. It's okay. Who are here is who needs to be here in Jesus' name, right? And so, our Family Matters is very big to Pentecostal because we draw in the community, we draw in our church members to participate. This is where we get guest speakers come in and just, I don't want to say educate, and I don't want to go a big word, but just talk. Because I want for everybody to be comfortable. We want for everybody, hey, First Lady, we want for everybody to be comfortable and just be able to communicate. Guess what? You feed off of me, I feed off of you, and we are learning together, right? So that's how I look at this. And so I'm so happy that you all are here. We have dynamic guest speakers on tonight. I know you have to leave for 8 o'clock. I know you have to leave for 8 o'clock, but just give me like 2 minutes. So what I want to ask for the people that was here yesterday and the night before, please shout out something that you learned on the first night. On the first night, we had Minister Jaden Bradley that was here, and he talked about the family dynamics. We also had, oh my God, we had Chantel Walls that was here, and she talked about minding your mind. And when you hear that, it's like, oh, what's going on in my mind? But what did you learn from Wednesday night? Yes, ma'am.
I forgot about it. You learn like in general psychology, different things in high school and college and stuff. But going through the stages of grief, I completely forgot that bargaining was a stage, like trying to make some type of exchange for the thing that you're experiencing. That one, I was just like, oh my God, I've done that, is what was standing out when she was going through that stage of grief.
And I personally did not know that bargaining was on the table when it came down to grief. When we are grieving. In 2020, many of us in this church lost so many family members. And I mean, losing one, it cuts, okay? But then losing 3, 5, or, bam, 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 boom. It's like, okay, what is going on? So a lot of us were distraught. We were hurt, as coach therapist Chantel stated on Wednesday night, she was mad. She was mad. She was mad at God. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, amen, so was I. So was I. Amen, so was I. Because I lost so many family members that was very also dear and close to my heart and all of that. So on yesterday night, we had your wealth is your health, and your health is your wealth, man. Yeah, they're speaking my language, all about finances and health and all of that. So we had Pastor Jessica Perez here on last night, and she talked about financial wellness and stewardship. And then we had my very own, and she talked about health and holistic and all that. So, what did we learn on last night?
Check your spending. See what you're spending. What are your non-essentials and your essentials? How can you be saving? And if you're saving, what are you investing? So if you're getting Dunkin' Donuts every day, that's a non-essential. But if you have a house where you're paying rent or you're paying a mortgage, that is essential.
So, I mean, really, seriously, I cannot live without
Toilet tissue is essential.
But, come on. I just got to have my Dunkin' Donuts. Check those and not checking. So, yes. So, on tonight, thank you, ladies. On tonight, we have two dynamic speakers. We have my sister, who is and she is going to tell us a little bit about the state of the economy. And then she has to dash out the door, okay? So we apologize right now, but she is awesome. And then after that, we have Dawn, who is going to talk to us about stepping into your next. What do you think that is? Ah, aha. What do you want your next to be? Aha. Okay. I told them nothing about you other than by way of Nigeria and England and now America. Basically, that's what I told them about you, okay? So at this time, I'm going to have Takesha come on up, and she is going to read the bios for me. Right.
Mic check, mic check. All right. Miss Wayona Nelson Davies is a leader, attorney, and advocate for equity and social justice. As the executive director of the Economic Progress Institute, she champions transformational and equitable budget and policy changes to improve the well-being of Rhode Island's low and modest income communities. Prior to coming to the Economic Progress Institute, Wayona's career spans over 14 years as a legal aid attorney, where she specialized in poverty law, the effects of structural racism, medical legal partnerships, public benefits, and housing law. She previously served as the managing attorney for Community Legal Aid's Worcester County offices, leading critical projects such as the Medical Legal Partnership, Asian Outreach, Veterans Legal Assistance, and the CORI Reentry, and serving as chair of CLA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. A sought-after keynote speaker and training facilitator, Wayona captivates audiences with her powerful storytelling and deep expertise in addressing systemic inequities. She has delivered impactful presentations on leadership, equity, and advocacy, drawing from her lived experience as an immigrant from Liberia and her journey toward becoming a champion for justice. Wayona has also served as faculty and mentor at Brown University Medical School and as an adjunct professor at the Community College of Rhode Island. She was named one of Go Local Prov 22 to watch in Rhode Island in 2022 and has been recognized with numerous awards, including the Rhode Island Black Business Association's Christiana Bannister Civic Leadership Award, City Year Providence Ubuntu Leadership and Humanity Award, the Roger Williams University School of Law Alumni Public Interest Champion of Justice Award, and the Massachusetts Bar Association Rising Star Award. A proud alumni of Rhode Island College and Roger Williams University School of Law, Wayona is deeply committed to cultivating partnerships and building movements for racial and economic justice. She resides in Rhode Island with her family, joyfully dancing at every opportunity. Let's please give it up for Miss Wayona Nelson Davies.
Thanks for that. You write bios and your team write bios, and I hate hearing it. We'll be able to share slides. Will someone be doing? Okay. So I just tell you or someone doing? Oh, okay, there you are. I'm like, that's an angel somewhere moving something. Thank you all. I do different presentation, and my work is not the most exciting thing. And so to talk about like policy and like tax and budget on a Friday afternoon in the summertime, I don't even want to do it. So I apologize that you have to sit here and listen to me talk about things that are boring but sort of important. So hopefully stay with me here and try not to be too bored. Next slide, please. So I like to start with who I am. And the reason I do it now, we're in the church so I can preach a little. People do jobs for different reasons. I've always felt I was called to do this work. I felt I was called for a greater purpose by God to be an advocate on behalf of people who need someone to stand by their side and make sure their needs are met. And I feel it in my bones. I've actually, at a keynote I did, there's a song from the movie Harriet by Cynthia Erivo, Stand Up, I Take My People With Me, about Harriet, and it talks about I can feel it in my bones. And so I like to start with, I grew up in Liberia, went through a civil war at the age of 10, and it was during that civil war I started feeling the call to justice in my bones as a 11, 12-year-old. And even in the midst of the war where it was dangerous to feel justice in your bones and called on leaders to do right by their people, I still felt it was important that I do it even if my life was at risk. And as a teenager, my parents was like, okay, girl, slow down, we need to protect you. And I was a teenager, so I was strong-headed, but I also really felt that I was called to speak up against what was happening to children and women and innocent citizens during the war. And I also felt that I was called to be a lawyer, because I talk about my voice all the time. I did not like it as a little girl. It was too deep. I got teased. You talk like a man when you don't talk like a man. So I stopped talking until I had to. But then when the war happened and I felt this call to really talk about the injustices in the war, I was like, oh wow, this voice is meant to do something. My father had this voice. My older brother, who's a Methodist pastor, who is always, he's one of those, had this deep voice and people love it. A little girl, not so much. But then I realized, oh wow, I also got this voice for a reason. It might not be to preach, but it's still there to change people's lives. And I thought about what I could use this voice for. And growing up in Africa, Nelson Mandela was a hero to all of us because he spoke up during apartheid when it was dangerous for him, where he was put in prison for 27 years. And I realized he was a lawyer. So he was not only an advocate, but he understood what laws were. He understood what human rights laws were, and he used that knowledge to speak for the liberation of his people. I was like, that's what I want to be. I can use this tool God gave me, and I can understand laws and use that to tell people you are accountable for this because the law exists. And so I was like, oh, That's what I'm going to be when I grow up. If I live and I get out of this war, I want to be an attorney like Nelson Mandela. And then, and I'm going to cut it short because I want to talk about the Economic Progress Institute. I did become that. And I stayed true to that. There were so many things you could become as a lawyer, but I wanted to be a lawyer who spoke on behalf of the most vulnerable in society, who get left behind, like I witnessed during the war. And so I spent a lot of my legal career speaking on behalf of communities who did not have access to attorneys. In the U.S., if there's a criminal case, you have a right to a lawyer under the law. Civil cases, you do not have a right to a lawyer. So if you're getting evicted, you do not have a right to a lawyer to represent you. If you're going through a domestic violence situation where you're trying to get away from your abuser, you do not have a right to a lawyer to represent you in that family law case or for custody or access to benefits. And so I work for Legal Aid, and that's where Legal Aid was created to sort of help people get access to lawyers. I was like, that is what I get to do, to stand by people and say, just because you don't have money doesn't mean you don't have a right to be in this court and someone speaking on your behalf. And I did that for many years, about 14 years. But one of the things I learned during that work, because lawyers represent individual clients. And in doing that work, I was, I think, blessed to have the opportunity to not just represent individual clients, but understand on a more deeper level why poverty exists. Why are there certain people poor and others are not? And sometimes we have this narrative, it's like only the strong, hardworking people are wealthy or have money, and poor people are lazy. But I knew that was not true, because I grew up in Africa. I saw market women go and work selling every day to send their kids to school. And I'm like, I've seen the hardest working people, the poorest people in society. So that cannot be the only reason why people are poor. I see hardworking people. I've seen here in Rhode Island since I came here at 16, working 2-3 jobs. Third shift, we're talking about third shifts for their children to go to school. But they are not the ones who have all of the money in the world. So poverty cannot just be about hard work. And so I really started diving more into systems that create poverty and maintain poverty, and the communities are poorer than others. And that led me to the Economic Progress Institute. So I practiced for 14 years in Massachusetts, traveling for like 14 years back and forth. And when COVID hit, I said, you know what, and I started teaching too in the next generation of leaders. I'm like, we have to start training the next generation of leaders differently than we grew up. And I was like, I'm doing all this work in Massachusetts, trying to change system in Massachusetts. It's COVID. I'm sitting in my dining room in North Providence and doing this. I should reassess. I want to do something at a systemic level to really address the root causes of why my clients that I saw kept coming back year after year because they were poor. And then I want to do something in Rhode Island, which is my home state since I immigrated here. And that led me to the Economic Progress Institute, which is a policy and research organization. And it's interesting, at first, I wanted to do something systemically, but ED, I was like, I'm an advocate, using the voice. Now I have to worry about fundraising and managing all these people and being like the front of an organization. That is not for me. And then someone else was like, I think this is a good, I'm like, no, I don't think so, keep looking. And then the third person came, who was the intern director, and we did City Year together when I was like 17. And she said, Wayona, you have to do this. Because I know who you are, I know how you stand up, and we need a community to get to understand why policies are important, and we need someone like you in that state house. So I was like, are you sure, Margot? She's like, yeah, I think it would be good for you, and we can help you with the fundraising part of it. And then I was like, okay, I'll think about it. In 2 days, I said I was thinking about it, and she sent a recruiter after me. And I was like, okay, I'll interview for it. And so really, again, that call, and as I listened, and really I had to pray about it, I had to speak to my family, because I know being an ED of a small organization with this kind of mission was going to take a lot, and I have small kids. So I really had to sit and think, but I also felt it in my bones. And I will say this, and I know I'm talking about EPI, but when we think about moving and changes, I don't make any decisions without God, and we're in the church, so I will say this. I pray about something, and I have to feel, something's calling me to do this, and something's calling me to make this move. And this was one of those things. I knew I was coming at the right time to make a difference and have an impact for however long I could. And so here we are, from Liberia, little cute baby, to now that I'm where I am now. Next slide, please. So the Economic Progress Institute, it's been around for 26 years. It's a policy and research organization. It was created in 1999 by those two women, Linda Cass, who was an attorney, and then Nancy Guris was a professor of social work at Rhode Island College. And she created it, especially Nancy, working with her students, and she used to go to the State House before this and realized that a lot of the people at the State House were like paid corporate lobbyists that were talking for like big corporations and getting policies that benefited them. And she's like, but what about the poorest Rhode Islanders? Why aren't anyone in the State House talking about why certain communities are just not thriving in Rhode Island? And so she and Linda started saying, you know what, we need to show up at the State House. And that was the time where welfare reform was also happening. And so we need to show up to make sure we're going to do it right, so families that need safety nets are not left out of the conversation at the State House. And that is why they created the Poverty Institute, to sort of fight against poverty in Rhode Island and become the people lobbyists, as it was called, to show up and then also show up with research and receipts to say, okay, we're not just here because we're passionate advocates, but we're going to show data that show that if you invest in certain communities, it helps the state as a whole. Next slide, please. And so it started as the Poverty Institute, and then 10 years after, they decided, and at that time, Nancy had passed away from cancer, and Linda was never an ED. She was the smart one. I say, I'll do policy. I never want to be an ED. They changed the name from the Poverty Institute to the Economic Progress Institute. So from what they were fighting against to what they were fighting towards. The goal was economic progress on behalf of all. And so those are small, so you can really read it. But our mission is really, again, to advance racial and economic justice in the state of Rhode Island, especially for low and modest income Rhode Islanders, to make sure that there are policies that improve the economic security for all people in Rhode Island, and insist that the needs of certain communities of color, poorer community, working families are included when we think of policy at the state level. And then think of budget and tax policy, where no one pay attention to, but what is the most important policy when we talk about it is that budget. We talk about like watching the budget at the State House and in Congress is also very important. And Linda and Nancy realized that in a couple of years to say, we can just fight for welfare reform. We need to understand what the state budget does, because every policy that we care about in the state of Rhode Island starts with that budget. And so adding budget and tax policy was important for EPI. Next slide, please. Sorry. So our main areas, we look at the budget, we look at revenue, tax fairness, economic opportunity is really important to our work, investments in children and healthcare, lifting Rhode Islanders out of poverty, and then race, equity, and democracy is really important, because when we talk about the root cause of poverty, race, and having access to democracy for certain communities are a reason why we have poverty. We inform, we advocate, and we transform. So I'm doing the inform piece of our work right now. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to go over these quickly because I want to talk about one report and what the state of the economy is. But so some of the things we do that you may find helpful in your everyday life, we produce different things and we advocate and we do research. We have on our website a resource page, and one of the resources is Guide to Assistance, and this helps a lot of navigators in our communities, helping people understand eligibility rules for social service programs. But it also talk about like tax preparedness, right? Where are there help if you need someone helping you with your taxes? Navigant this year asked us for a place on our website to talk about the smart loans for small business owners and people who just need loans for different things. So information about smart loans, telephone assistance, tax credits. You know, we have tax credits and sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. Just understanding how those work for you. The other thing we do is research. We do a lot of research. Again, we come with receipts, because I show up at the State House, it's not, right? It's like, okay, what are you talking about? Do you really know what you're talking about? It's like, yes, we have the receipts. This is what the data show, and that is why you need to pass policy. So research is the bedrock of the work we do. And so on our website, you'll see a lot of different research if you're interested in learning about different things, whether it's pay leave, how does pay leave work, and I'll talk a little about that. One of the main research we give, and that's what I'm going to spend some time on, is the Rhode Island Standard of Need. What do families in Rhode Island need to meet their basic essential needs? And so we do that every 2 years to remind people that we cannot just look at the federal poverty level, because that's outdated. We need to understand what the Rhode Island data tell us about what our family need. So that's a big piece of the research we do, and then we use that to advocate for policy. We testify. We're at the State House January to June. My team is there. We do more than 100 testimonies every legislative session to make sure we're in those rooms where decisions are being made in coalition with a lot of partners. And then we're fighting for transformation. Because I've been in this work where it's like poverty is this revolving door where you're helping people just make it. Part of our goal is how are we transforming policy and transforming lives in Rhode Island. So it's like there's incremental things we work on, but we work on long-term changes for communities as well. Next slide. And I'll skip over. These are just some of our priorities, but I'll skip over there to go to some of our coalitions. I think one of the things that drew me to this work was the fact that we do nothing alone. I'm from Liberia, so it takes a village. It's a part of my upbringing. And so one of the things I love about this, nothing we do is in isolation. So when EPI show up to the State House, we show up with numbers. Because another thing we need to understand about our power is you do not have to be the wealthiest, especially when we say we're in a democracy. Numbers matter. People power matter. And so we show up and say, yes, I'm not a corporate lobbyist. People are not paying me thousands of dollars to say, help me here. But I show up with a community voice behind me. I show up saying your voters want this policy. And so we come heavy. We roll in deep, as my team member would say. When we roll in deep. The speaker always, like, when he look at me coming, it's like this whole, we're like, Mr. Speaker, and he's like running from us because we're coming like 5 to like corner him and talk about policy. And that's really important for this work. And I'm saying that because we need each other, right? I can't be there talking about myself because he's going to ask me, where are the people? I show up at the end of session with like a petition signed by 1,000 Rhode Islanders. So like 1,000 people want you to do this. And so it's really important for us to be in community and coalition in doing this work. Next slide, please. The budget. It's really, really important. Rhode Island passed a $14.3 billion budget this year. Do you all know what's in the budget? Anybody know what's in that budget? Taxes are going up. Do you know? It is, yeah. But that's the Providence budget, but yes. The gas tax, yeah. It's important. It's really important, and it's dense. It's a 200+ page thing, and it's dense for a reason. I always say like policies are boring for a reason, because it's like, oh, I have to read it. No one's gonna sit down and read a 200 page budget. But what's in that impacts all of us, whether we think so or not. And so one of the things we do is to make sure we have analysts, and I have my director of fiscal policy. He loves this stuff. Like, he's like waiting like midnight for the budget to drop so he can stay all night going over it. I'm like, you go, Alan. Give me the summary in the morning and tell me what I need to say, right? So I love that he loves it, because I need him to love it for me to understand what's in that budget so I can explain to you what's in that budget. Because once we know, then we're able to be like, oh, I don't see my community in that. And how does this impact me? Now I have to pay more. Now I have to receive less. That is what the budget tells us. It's the most important policy that is passed in our state and in our country every year. It says something. And so one of our goals is we do budget 101 to teach people about the budget process. Because in June, that's when people are like, oh, my taxes went up. Oh, I have to pay a gas tax. But guess what? In August, that is when that conversation starts before the following June. Next slide, please. And you can all see, and I sent this, so hopefully we can share if people have emails so you can get the slides. But in August, that is when agencies start sending their proposal to the governor to say, this is how much money we need, and these are the things we care about, and we want you to propose that. So from August to October, we try to train communities to say, this is when you need to be calling, Kim Brittle at DHS and be like, Kim, my community need X, Y, and Z. I hope that's in your proposal to the governor. Because when it gets to the governor in October, that's another opportunity for us to now start calling his office and be like, Governor, RIPTA. RIPTA will start pushing and be like, we don't have enough for public transportation. I use it to get to work. Or, Governor, my health insurance is going up. Or now a year in Congress, I might be losing Medicaid. Or my mom cannot get long term. You need his office to hear that before January. Because in January, he sends his proposed budget. And what happens? Yes. Kim Brittle, I just use her as an example, but she's one of the one of the heads of agencies that you can call. So in January, he proposes his budget, and when he does, why it's important to try to get in by August or October is because that proposed budget tells the General Assembly what the governor wants them to pass. And the speaker will always ask you, in October when we're having conversation with him, he'll ask you, have you spoke with the governor's office? Because if your things you care about is in that proposed budget, the likelihood of it becoming law in June is higher. If it's not in, then you have to do extra work in January to try to convince legislators to put it in the budget in June. So Rhode Island just passed that $14 billion budget in June. Most of those provisions start on July 1st, and then some of them will take place January 1st. Our guide to assistance that I talk about, we update that because the law will change about child care assistance, for example. For many years, we fight to increase that eligibility so when families are not penalized by making more money. Because just you're making money doesn't mean you can afford child care. We all know how expensive child care is, right? And so we've been pushing that. We're like, no, you can't say people can only make $60,000. If you make $70,000, $80,000, that is still not enough to meet your basic needs. You should still get a little bit of assistance. And the other thing we've also done is the exit. When I did public benefits law, one of my frustration was it was almost a trap to keep people poor. Because as soon as you make $1 over, it's like, you don't need assistance anymore. And that doesn't make sense if our goal is really to get people out of poverty. So in Rhode Island, especially with the child care assistance program, we've been fighting to have what they call the exit limit. So you can make X amount of dollars to get child care assistance, but you can stay on even if you make money until you get to another thing and be dropped out. So we're able last year to get that exit limit to like 300% of the poverty level, which I think was like 79 or something, right? So see, you're watching, yeah. So you have to pay attention because that impacts families, right? And so that's some of the things we really try to fight to get in that budget. This year, we were trying to push the limit again. We didn't get that. But what we were able to get this year for the child care piece was the infants. So there's infants and toddler reimbursement rates that go to child care providers. The infant rate was increased to 20%. And so that also means now providers can get a little bit more money for taking care of infants. But that, again, explains that we care about these things. They're in the budget. So it's important to pay attention to that. Next slide, please. It is, but it's dense. So it's that 230, 300-page budget. So it is made public. So what we do, and we're not the only organization, there's about 3 or 4 of us that we have like Allens on our staff that will spend that night before it even goes public looking at it. So what we do, we synthesize that, into explanation to explain people what's in it. And we have what we call revenue roundtables. So if people get on our list, we do it to educate the family. We go to different community organizations like churches, different groups, and do budget one-on-ones. And so when the budget drop, we go and have presentation and be like, oh, this is what is in the proposed budget. This is what's missing. This is what we probably need to advocate for. So we try to do training so people knows what's in the budget, but it is public. But some people love reading. I don't even read the 200. I'm like, we all know our, strengths and what we like, but I know what's in it because we have people analyzing that, and then I take the parts that I know are important to people, and then I try to do the education, basically. A good question. So 36% of our budget comes from the federal government. So that's huge. So the federal budget affects us a lot, especially now with the reconciliation bill. We're having a briefing on the so when we talk about how we educate the community. So on Thursday from 4 to 5, we're going to be educating the community on what's in the federal bill and how it's going to impact Rhode Island. So please scan our QR code because you can register for the Zoom. And even if you can't attend, scan anyway because you can get the recording and some of the slides.
This is a Zoom.
It is a Zoom.
Okay.
Yes. So please register because that's really important to understand how we will be impacted in Rhode Island. Because a couple of things are happening with what was passed on the federal level. The cuts to Medicaid and SNAP will impact people on it, but it's also going to impact our budget. Because what is happening, or what was proposed and now is law, is some of that cost is going to be shifted to the states. So Rhode Island, for example, SNAP, Rhode Island have only paid administrative costs for SNAP for years. We don't pay for the actual SNAP benefits that come into our state. So we get millions of dollars to get people who need food assistance. This bill is penalizing certain states like Rhode Island. So now Rhode Island will be required to pay up to 15% of our SNAP benefits, which is about $80-something million a year. So think of our budget is already 36% reliant on the federal government. This is going to put us in a deficit. And we're also talking about the number of people. There's 300,000 people on Medicaid that will be impacted by what's happening with this budget. And not just people, community health centers, because people get Medicaid reimbursements, right? So our hospitals, health centers are all impacted by that Medicaid dollars because it helps to pay for our hospital and healthcare system. So the impact will be felt for years. What is interesting, though, when we talk about mobilizing people, most of these do not go into effect until after the 2026 elections. So just so you know, if you sort of political savvy, you understand that was intentional because people won't feel it. So you'll be like, this doesn't really impact families in my church. We don't see anything happening. And then boom, December 2026, people start feeling it, but elections matters. And then by that time, it might be too late to sort of change what's happening at Congress. So all of those things are really important to pay attention to as people. So please, attend if you can. If not, please sign up because this will be a really important briefing to understand what we need to do in Rhode Island. And I can share the link by email too if you want to email our. I'm not sure.
This is very important. So would you do me a favor? Have your staff meetings such as this. If they can send me the information so we can share it with the members and we can all be a part of these important.
Yeah, and please, I will make sure I'm gonna have some sign up, and I'll send you subscribe because that's the easiest way. Subscribe to our newsletters, and you'll get this information all the time. So that's the easiest way for us to just get it out to people, and you can send that link, and then your members can subscribe themselves, and you can subscribe as well. Because education is power, you all. Next slide. Next one. I'm going to share. I have some, because my job, unfortunately, I don't bring the good news like you all do. I bring bad news. I don't. Okay, good. Because I feel like my work, one of the things of my work is like, oh, it's bad all the time. So I'm going to end the first session before I talk about the research with some good news, right? So when we do fight, and so, and one of the things too, gratitude is really important to me. And again, I'm a church girl, like we said, so I know it's important to give thanks for things. So for 4 years now, my team have hosted a top 10 celebration win at the end of our legislative session. And we do this because when you're doing policy work, most of the time it's so long term, people don't feel the impact, people don't feel like they're making a difference. And I'm like, we have to pause and we have to think about the good things that are happening, because people will be like, nothing changed. You hear that all the time. It doesn't matter what I do, it doesn't matter if I vote, nothing's gonna change. And we use this to remind people that things do change. So this, what I just shared with you, is some of the wins we got from the legislative session just this year. And these are some huge wins for families. One of the wins, number one, ending payday lending in Rhode Island, was a big one for us. It's been a 15 years battle where payday lenders could charge people up to 260% for taking payday loans, small loans. And for 15 years, advocates have been at the State House saying this is wrong, this is not right. When we talk about fair lending, this isn't it. The only reason this has been happening for 15 years was because payday lenders had strong corporate lobbyists that was like, this is not gonna happen, and our leadership was not gonna budge. We only got like one hearing in 15 years in the House, and it passed that in 2023, and nothing happened. This year, for the first time, we got payday lending reform, that payday lenders now have to abide by the same rule as every other lender and can only charge up to 36% interest rate. So that was huge for our families. Another win I really love was the baby bonds legislation. It doesn't have money yet because we couldn't get money this year because we had a deficit. But what this was, we worked with the Treasurer Office because a lot of time we're fighting for policy just for people to survive. And we've been talking about how do we build generational wealth, how do we close the racial wealth gap. And baby bonds is a program, and this is just a pilot, and it's starting with people who are on Rhode Island Works, for babies who are born on Rhode Island Works to have hope for the future. To say just because you're born into poverty does not mean you still have to stay into poverty when you turn 18. So what the baby bonds does is it's going to invest $3,000 on babies who are born on Rhode Island Works, and when they turn 18, they can use that money to buy a home, to start a business, to pay for higher education and retirement. But it's Rhode Island Works. I don't know if you're eligible, Pastor, but yes. He's like, say what? But it's a pilot though. And people have done it in other states for, certain communities. So people have done it for certain zip codes. So say all children born in this zip code get this investment when they're born, and they can use at 18. So we're starting this pilot to sort of test what can happen when families are like, when my child turned 18, they can start on the right footing. So I'm really excited about this one.
Right.
Well, not yet. I'm saying
It's just a pilot.
pilot is only for those who are on Rhode Island Works, our cash
Right.
assistance
That's
program.
what I was going to ask. How does a person determine, or how the Rhode Island Works program? Were they already on it?
It's newborn. So when you're born, so if it starts and we don't have the money yet, so I don't know if it will start in 2026.
Oh,
The
the
treasurer have to
program.
go find the money.
The program hasn't started yet.
It was passed, but now the treasurer asked for money and they didn't give him money. So now his next step is next year to find money from in his treasury. But the reason the proposal was actually to start in 2026. So all babies who are going to be born in 2026 were going to be the first group of the pilot program. Yes.
All right, y'all want to have kids, y'all.
It's the time.
Lexi.
Our community is like, get that family going. The other one I was really excited with, and I'm not going to share all of them because now you have to think, but the Pay Family Leave Program in Rhode Island. This is another one we've been fighting for many years. Rhode Island was one of the leaders, and I think Dawn worked on this last year as well with the Women Policy Institute. So TDI and TCI, we were one of the leaders in the nation to start a state family leave program. But we only started with 6 weeks. And we only started that if you take leave off when you have a child or you're taking it to care for our ailing parent, you could only get 60% of your salary. So you basically would be taking a 40% pay cut to take time off. So a lot of people who needed it, it's like, I can't afford to take it, so I'm only going to take 2 weeks with my baby or my mom. Now we have to like split between the siblings to take care of my mom. So we've been fighting for years. So 6 weeks was too low compared to other states. We've been fighting to get it from 6 weeks to 12 weeks. Last year, we got it to 8 weeks. So it's 7 weeks this year, and it's going to be 8 weeks next year. My biggest thing when I talk about anti-poverty was like the weeks is one thing, but who can afford a 40% pay cut when we're already not making enough money? And so my main goal was we need to get that wage replacement, is called, higher. Massachusetts is 85%, Connecticut is 90%. I'm like, Rhode Island, we're 60, come on now. So we've been fighting for years to get it up. This year, we didn't get it to the 85%, but we're able to push for it to get to 75% by 2028. That's a huge win. That means people at least, and I'm still not satisfied, we're gonna go back. Every year you're like, yeah, I want this, and then we're gonna go back and ask for more. But that is moving us from 60% to 75%. That's a huge win. The other part we've been fighting for is the family definition. Because when we're talking about family matters, right, we always think family is like, okay, parents and children. But we know in our community, grandparents are part of our family, right? Siblings are taking care of each other. And so we've been fighting to expand that family definition, to expand just from parents to include grandparents that didn't go through. But this year, siblings are now a part of the family definition. So if your sibling gets sick, you can get paid to take time off to care for your sick sibling. And that was a huge win in the right direction. We're also fighting for different kind of families, like foster children. They don't have blood relatives, but there are caregivers in their lives who should be able to take care of them and not lose pay. And so that's our next step, to push the family definition, to really think about what are the different family units and definitions we have in our communities. And then the last one I will highlight is the minimum wage. We got to $15 an hour this year. We are going to get to $17 an hour by 2027. So for those who are making minimum wage, a little bit extra wages they will get. So I'll stop there on the win. So there's some, positive there. Am I on time?
Questions, I need you to use the mic because we are actually live.
So my question is not live right now. My question is about the TDI, right? What are we doing as far as those that don't have access? Because not every job provides access to TDI. There's some that have to.
State employees and small business owners do not.
We both worked for the city at one time, so we didn't have access to TDI. Is that something that is a goal, I guess, or?
It is, yes. So we've actually been talking about one for state employees to be able to get TDI, and like government employees, and for small business owners or self-employed people to also get it. So join the fight. That would be the next fight. So if you care about these issues that you hear me talking about, like I said, we don't do it alone. We need other voices to come and say, I was a city employee and I know how that was important. So please join the fight for everything you're hearing me talk about today.
Any other questions? If not, give her a hand, y'all. All right now.
And I didn't get to sort of these, but you are going to get this slide to sort of talk about what families need in Rhode Island. I'll just share this because I think it's really important. Because we use the federal poverty level to determine who needs help in this state. and it's an inadequate measure. So what we've done in the Rhode Island Center of Need, and I'll leave a copy with the pastor because I have like one copy, so it's important, like read it and share with your members. But it tells you how much families need in Rhode Island. So for a single parent with 2 children, and I'll just read these quickly. A single parent with 2 children, one in childcare and one in school, they need $99,418 to meet basic needs. And we're not talking about Dunkin' Donuts, we're talking about basic needs: house, child care, utilities, health care. They need $99,418. 2 parents with 2 children need $107,000 to meet their basic needs. For that single parent I talk about with 2 children, only 22% in the state of Rhode Island can meet that. So we have about 78% of our single parents with 2 children in the state of Rhode Island who cannot meet our basic needs. So when we talk about the state of the economy, it's important to realize that a lot of our families are struggling.
No, I was in it all the whole time, because we went through some things, and because we owned our home, and my son isn't disabled, neither is my husband or me. We didn't qualify for anything. So my question, and I read a statistic a few weeks or months ago, maybe last year, that Rhode Island is like one of the worst places in the country to live economically, right? Because the jobs don't match the housing. And yeah, we had the same conversation last year at Family Conference. So as a transplant in the state of Rhode Island, and just also an advocate, right, and a organizer, you say join the fight, which is great. We can talk all day here, but what does that look like in action? I'm sure you all have lobbyists that work and do all the kinds of things, but like for us who are here, like people come to us for help all the time, and we say, honey, I need help too. How are we gonna do this? So what does that look like for us?
Thank you. That's a great question. That's a great way to end, because that was my last slide. And we don't do direct service, right? So one of the things we're fighting for, because I've done direct service work, and it helps people when people are hungry today. We need people who can give them food. But part of my thing is I want to make sure people are not hungry. Why are people hungry in the first place? So part of joining that fight is a couple of things. It's to be a part of the movement. Like, your members should hear you talking about pay leave. Your members should hear you talking about, 22% of our families, or 78% of our families, cannot meet basic needs. So what does that mean? It means policy needs to change, because like I said, the federal poverty level use it so you can only make X amount of dollars to get money. And so if you're doing well and need help, you can. That's a policy choice. There are leaders who are saying, we are going to decide that you need to make $20,000 a year for us to give you $5 extra to go and buy something. That is a policy choice that the fight looks like you being a voice to say, no, people can make $100,000 and it's only basic needs. She deserves to drink Dunkin' Donuts once a week. Why are we punishing people for a ceiling? So part of the policy choice is changing eligibility rates, because it's wrong. They're using something from the 1960s to determine what today's rate should be for basic needs. Part of that fight is fighting for child care assistance. People working, right? We should get free child care, right? That will really help a lot of people be able to afford the basic needs. So that's part of the fight. So come when we talk about child care at the State House, to come and be like, I want you to hear from me. I have a congregation that they like numbers, right? I have people in my community who are struggling with this. Why does Rhode Island say you have to only make this when we have our church members fighting the dead? That's part of the fight, to be at the State House, to testify, to sign petitions when we have. They pay attention to that, to fill the room. Sometimes I tell people I want 100 people in this room, because they'll be like, yeah, it's what Yona again, so they get tired seeing our faces out of the time. Part of the fight, which I think is really important, and people do not think the value, is the information, what you're doing now. To let people know about the budget process, to let people know that, no, there is an avenue. policy is really important. There's power in changing policy. Like now more people can afford childcare because of policy. And part of it is sitting down in coalition and thinking about what are the issues you see and what are the solutions and how can we work together, whether it's policies here or whether it's in Washington or whether it's maybe even our own communities figuring out our solutions for ourselves. I think it's that conversation. What do we know about what's happening? What do we know about the possible solutions? And which part of it can we bring our strengths to it? So that's how I sort of do my part and pull people in. So join, please. I need your energy and strength and knowledge.
Yes, I had a lot of questions, but I'm gonna go to your website and I'm going to educate myself.
Muna know how to find me.
So my question is kind of like a part B off of what you just answered. So when the numbers and the voices show up to the places where policy decisions are being made, what is the quality of the decision? Does that make sense? Like, are they just, if you change their opinion, they sign a piece of paper? What is the actual like quality of the decision?
Yeah. Our systems are set up to discourage us. And that's one of the reasons I do top 10 to remind us that we do win sometimes. Because you will go there and first of all, the way it's set up, the hearing starts at 4 p.m. You have no time when you're going to be heard. Sometimes you can go until midnight. That is set up to discourage you from showing up. So that's one of it, right? And then part of it is like every year, like some things we've been fighting for, like payday lending, like I said, it took 15 years. And it wasn't because they didn't believe it was good policy. It wasn't because people didn't stand up. It was simply because a corporate lobbyist said, you cannot pass this. But every year we show up, I got in trouble with the Senate president who threatened me 2 years ago. And I'm like, is this democracy? So part of it is like calling them out. Part of it is like showing up every year. We show up this year. I was tired in January. I'm like, I'm tired fighting with this. There's so much going on in the world, but giving up and being tired is part of the strategy. So part of it is like showing up every time and letting them know we see you, we're paying attention, election is next year, and then they change their mind when they see different people. Churches are really important at that state house. Most of the thing we have, like the Interfaith Coalition, the Council of Churches, I call them and be like, I need you to talk to these folks, you know? So like who's in the room, which voices they're hearing from different ends really make a difference because they get scared when the media get wind of all these people are coming and the people from Pentecostal church show up and you're not paying attention, they get scared. So making noise, understanding what the issues are and keep showing up, and then what happens, then we vote. In Rhode Island, most of the issues we have is not that it's not good policy, they hold them in committee. So we say things go for further study, we're further studying this thing, so we're not gonna vote. Part of it is pushing them to vote. Say, let people see that you're gonna vote on this issue, and once they vote, most of the time the policy you care about, once we can get it out of committee, is gonna pass on the floor.
All of this excites me for several reasons. I heard you mention the Interfaith Committee. Last year we had a representative from housing. I can't remember Rhode Island Housing, and we all felt the kind of like the same energy around organizing and holding elected officials accountable and all of that. I'm not even sure if the interfaith organization does this, but I'm from North Carolina. And in North Carolina, we didn't have a quote-unquote interfaith organization, but it was interfaith, it was neighborhoods. It was basically a whole conglomerate representing the city of Durham from all walks of life, where we did this kind of work, but from a grassroots perspective. And we held the elected officials accountable for what they said they were going to do. And once they were elected, we held them accountable for doing exactly what they said they were going to do. I haven't seen any of that exist here in Rhode Island, but I am just sharing with you that you have the energy that, you know, people like me are looking for to be able to bring all of these organizations together. So if you all, I don't know if you all have like some type of outreach component that coordinates all that, but we would love to be a part, and that's what I wanted to share. share.
And thank you, you raised a good point. Because we do the policy and analysis and we're a small organization, the organizing part, and I so agree with you, the grassroots movement in Rhode Island needs some work. That is what is missing. And so we don't have organizer because I just don't have the money to pay for an organizer. And so I'm like, we'll focus on the analysis and be the support and give the community what they need. But we do need a strong, I'm like looking at you, we do need a strong grassroots movement. And I can feel it in my bones that you might be a part of it. Thank you all.
I'm gonna, and then I'll let you retire. Somebody said, did somebody say, oh my? What is it? What was being said? I guess the question really, right? So, okay, I'm sorry, give me a moment. Working in the city, I work for Mayor Warrior Florida. Gave me the opportunity to see just within the city of Providence all of the nonprofits that exist. It's actually amazing because Providence and even Rhode Island has a lot of like, you know, you were saying what, like I mean, nonprofit organizations, like it's crazy, and yet there's this disconnect. And I'm just trying to, I guess, is there any advice that you would give as to if we were to, let's just say we were to start a grassroots type of situation, what advice would you give to, because it's I think that's the challenge, with there being so many and everybody seems to be doing the same thing, and then here comes the kick is that, well, I'm doing my thing over here, so I can't help you over there and everything, like, you know, all of this division, you know. So I'm wondering, you know, there is the inspiration or the desire and the push to, because this is not for anybody, this is not for our own self-gain. It's to help other people, right? But yet everybody is in their silos. So, you know, is there any advice that you give is what my question is.
Yeah, I need advice myself. But no, because I see that as a problem, and I think that's one of the reasons that I believe in people power, and I hope we understood our power when we come together. But that again is intentional. You know, like I study these systems are meant for us to question each other, not trust each other, think that I don't know, you're not doing it the right way, and we start fighting over things that do not matter. So it's hard to dismantle that kind of mentality. So one of the things I've been doing is just showing up, you know, and even me, like I'm from the community. I immigrated here since I was 16, but even me, now when you get like certain knowledge, like, oh, Wayona's out there doing policy, but it's important that we're in every single room. And so the fact that I'm in rooms where decisions are being made is valuable to my community, but even that seemed a little removed because I'm not grassroots, you know, and so there's this distrust even when I have conversations. What I've done since I've been in this role is to show up. I'll show up and I'll talk about this thing and I'll be me. And once people start to know who I am, just no matter what, you know, whether I'm on the dance floor dancing my Afro beats or talking policy, I am me. And I show up because, like I shared in the beginning, I was called to do this work. And so I show up, I'm very patient, and I keep bringing results. And so one thing I show up about, you know, I did it, everyone can come to the table all at once. You have to start. So even if it's like just 5 of us, in a committee room, it will be the 5 of us, and then we'll show and be like, look, we were able to get this. And so then people start believing in who we are. And I hope I had the solution to say how we can get together. But for me, it's showing up, keep pushing, keep doing my thing. You know, if I really believe in it, I'm coming here and be like, join me. But next year, even if I don't see you, I'm going to still keep pushing. And I'll come back and I don't like, oh, you weren't there. I'll be like, hey, look what we did. Eventually, you will come around. And that's just how I've been doing it. But yeah, but I'm hoping we can all solve that problem because I think we're so powerful together.
Give her a hand. So I remember when I started working at together, a team together, and we was at the State House and, payday lending and everything else. And as part of my presentation, when I did my financial literacy classes when I did my financial literacy classes for my participant and all like that, I talk about payday lending. At the time, it was like 300. It was like 300 to 900%. All right, that people was paying if they did not pay back that loan. They had 2 weeks to pay back that loan, and if they didn't do it within 2 weeks, that interest rate was high, and yet people were still going. People were still going to pay their lender because they weren't surviving on their regular 9 to 5 jobs and stuff like that, and so they had to go to pay their lending. So I am so grateful that this year, with the help of my beautiful sister over here, that was passed into law and all of that. So that is an awesome thing. And then another thing that was happening, I'm going to say it this way, I know I'm in church. Just how you see every corner liquor stores pop up, every corner payday loans were popping up on every corner, and they were making buku money. I'm Liberian as well. They were making buku money from people, and a lot of it from people who look like us, are low-educated people, and so I am so happy. When I saw your post and everything, I did a dance, y'all. So I am so happy. So want to say thank you so very much for being here on tonight, right? Yeah, we really enjoy you. You'll be back. You'll be back. So I want to say thank you very much for coming. I hope you like it. She'll be back. Yeah. Mother Martha said you'll be back. All right. Give her a hug. I love you. Okay. God bless you. Okay. She has to run. She has another engagement. She has to run. Okay. So we're going to introduce our next speaker. I met this young lady this year, but I've known you before, but we finally met this year at an event. And so Takesha's going to read Dawn's bio, and then we get started. Oh, I'm sorry. And if you have any questions, please, can you please ask your question in the microphone, okay? Thank you.
Dawn Apache is an accomplished professional who has worked in the recruitment industry for over 30 years, both in the UK and the US. After graduating from the London School of Economics, Dawn embarked on a remarkable career journey, managing one of the most profitable temporary staffing divisions in London. Her expertise and dedication propelled her to the role of sales executive at Adecco. Is it Adecco? Adecco. Okay, I saw 2 C's. That's why I went that way. A leading employment agency in the United States, where she garnered national recognition as the top sales executive in the country in 1999. In 2006, drawing upon her extensive experience, Dawn founded City Personnel with a clear mission: to connect top talent with businesses in Rhode Island and Southern Massachusetts. With 3 decades of experience, Dawn leads a team of professional recruiters who share her passion for building enduring and trustworthy relationships with both companies and job seekers. Dawn's commitment to excellence and fostering meaningful connections has solidified City Personnel's reputation in the industry. Beyond her business success, Dawn is a dedicated mentor and advocate for women in leadership. She is a proud graduate of Leadership Rhode Island and the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program, and is actively involved in initiatives that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. Under her leadership, City Personnel has received Clearly Rated's Best of Staffing Client Satisfaction Diamond Award, an honor earned by fewer than 2% of staffing agencies in the U.S. and Canada. Her passion for giving back is rooted in her own experiences, providing support and resources to others that she didn't have access to growing up. Whether through mentorship, community engagement, or creating opportunities for underrepresented voices, Dawn continues to uplift the next generation of leaders. Let's give it up for Don Apache.
Hello. Hi. Oh my God. Good to see you there. Yeah. So when I was act is going to be really hard to follow because I don't have that deep voice, um, and I don't think I do equally as the meaningful work she does. So please be patient with me. So do I need this? Okay. I'll take the mic stand. Yeah. So. So, okay. So my presentation is really well. My talk today, this evening, is going to talk about stepping into your next career. So I'm going to give you some tips about how to present yourself, how to prepare, and just really how to take intentional steps forward. A bit about me first, though. You want to slide? Where's she gone? Okay. So my journey started in London. My parents were immigrants from the Caribbean who went to the UK in search of a better life. I'm not quite sure if everybody knows about the Windrush generation that happened in the late 40s to sort of like 60s. Former colonies, people from like the Caribbean, places in India, when people went to the UK. Some went to the US, some went to Canada, but my parents chose the UK. And we didn't have much growing up, but we were rich in the things that really matter. So love, values, and really strong work ethic. My parents drilled into us the importance of education, hard work, and always being kind and treating people like you would want to be treated. So when I graduated from the London School of Economics, I had a degree in social policy. I had no clue where I would land. I thought I wanted to go into social work. That wasn't the case. That wasn't my calling. I wanted to go into sales and people and make connections. I ended up in staffing, running a fast-paced placement division in London, and I quickly fell in love with the work. Helping people find opportunities, build careers, and gain confidence, it really lit something in me. Then I made the move to the US, which, let me tell you, was exciting and terrifying. I landed a sales job at a big staffing firm in Chicago. 2 years later, and 2 babies later, I was named their top sales executive in the entire country. And that was really a huge moment for me. But the biggest leap came in 2006 when I decided to start my own staffing firm, City Personnel. I had no investors, no roadmap, just a lot of hustle and a dream to build something meaningful. I wanted to create a staffing agency that focused on people first, not just filling jobs, but making real connections that change lives. Because staffing is all about people, not just placements. Over the years, we've grown, we've won awards, but more than anything, we've made a real impact here in Rhode Island. We've helped job seekers find their footing and businesses find their next great hire. And to me, that is the magic of the work. Next slide. So how can you embrace your journey? Transition periods can be uncomfortable but powerful. Think of this as a reset, a time to reflect, redefine, and redirect your career. The key is mindset. View this moment not as an ending but as a beginning. Growth often comes disguised as uncertainty. Your next is not just a job, it's a new chapter, so let's embrace it fully. Next slide. But before you update your resume or apply for roles, take a moment to reconnect with who you are professionally, who you really are. Ask yourself, what are your top skills and strengths? What type of work energizes you? What type of work drains you? What values are non-negotiable for you in the workplace? Tools like Clifton Strengths or simple journaling exercises can help. The better you understand yourself, the easier it is to find the right fit. Does everybody know what Clifton Strengths is? Does everybody? Right. It's a tool. I took the assessment last year, and no to the wrong ones, and look at SMART goals. Any questions so far? No? Okay. Next slide. Yeah, sure.
Would you give to, as you're talking about finding yourself first, and then you're talking about clarifying career goals.
Yeah.
So what resources would you give or suggest as that person dives into as far as what skills they have, trying to identify their skills.
So I would suggest, I mean, if you're applying for positions, the more you apply for positions, the more you're going to understand what you don't want to do. You need to look, take a deep dive into what you don't want to do, what you can do, what you enjoy doing. Think about your leadership style, your personality, and think about what really energizes you. What are your yays about in your job, in your current job role, and what drains you, and really sort of like take a deep dive. I would work with other individuals, maybe co-workers, look at your sort of performance reviews. My staff, I have regular one-on-ones with my staff. I do a quarterly chat with them. We do an annual performance review, and we have open conversations about where they want to go personally, professionally. And I'm hoping that, if somebody can have an open dialogue with their manager or maybe their co-workers. Does that make sense? Sure.
So I know that you mentioned Clifton Strengths. I took it in a leadership course with the Atlanta Black Business Association.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I know a couple of people were interested. Is it something that's free or do you have to purchase?
So Clifton Strengths is you pay a fee, a one-off fee. I think it's $34, and you get access to your 5 top strengths.
Yes.
And that's always going to be there. So if you log in, you don't have to pay again to access it. You can download that information. I mentioned earlier though there were 34 strengths.
Yes.
So you have to pay, I think it's like a nominal fee, like $5-10 to unlock your other strengths. My strengths, when I found out my strengths, I was like, oh my God, I'm so boring. Because they were responsibility, harmony, focus, discipline, includer. And I'm a people person. I'm kind of like extroverted, and I'm thinking, I want to be like a wow people over. I want to be like an achiever, an influencer. So I paid the $10 to unlock my 34 strengths, and my 6th strength was achiever. So I was like, but yeah, you can unlock them. Do you remember what you are, or?
Relationships.
Okay.
So all of mine, I think I've
Yeah.
one that was not in relationships, and that is my personality. That
Yes.
is crazy. And I even told my group, I said, what I always thought was my weakness was actually my strength. Because
Yeah.
I thought building relationships, because I'm always
Yeah.
trying to be good at people. I'm always trying to promote someone. I thought it was my weakness. And I used to say, well, I gotta stop doing that. I gotta stop, because I always go to my boss and be like, she can do it. Let's promote her. Let's go. And my boss is like, you need to see, no, she's not ready. I'm like, no, she is. These are, this is what she's working on. And I'm gonna prepare
Yeah.
her to do this. So I always thought it was my weakness. And be like, people just say good
Yeah.
at people for no reason. But then when my 5 strengths, I was like, oh my God, that's so me. So I'm gonna keep being me then, because that's who I am. And it's actually my strength, not my weakness.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, the whole idea is to unlock your strengths and not focus and think about your weaknesses. What typically people in the past, employers have said, oh, let's develop your weaknesses. No, let's play on your strengths to use those to the advantage to make an impact. So, yeah. Any other questions about Clifton Strengths? Or
I was gonna say, so my top 5, and then I went back and I did it again.
Yeah.
And my number 6. So number 1 is connectiveness.
Okay.
Really, seriously. Arranger, responsibility. You talk about boring responsibility.
Yeah.
Learner, relator, and I redid it. And
others over, winning others over. And it's the trait that is the extrovert type of, yeah, but they're all good. They're all strengths, and yeah, okay. Next slide. I think I'm up for clarity. No. Go back a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So next up, so once you've actually sort of like clarified your goals, you want to look at your resume and your LinkedIn profile. So make sure your resume is results focused. Talk about action verbs and quantify outcomes. Your LinkedIn profile should be consistent with your resume, but more personal. Use your headline to showcase your value, not just your title. Think of these tools as your marketing materials. You want to grab attention and show what you bring to the table. Any questions? I'm assuming that if you're looking for a job, everybody has a LinkedIn profile, right? Yeah. And what, LinkedIn? What do you mean?
Even though I'm stepping fully into my next, I've been on LinkedIn for a while, and when I started looking for jobs, it seems so oversaturated. When you use the jobs feature, so they post the job. By the time you see the job, 575 people have already applied to that job on LinkedIn. And so sometimes it feels like you're just applying and wasting your time and energy. And so I don't use it as much. I don't really use it at all anymore. There are people who we know, let's say your resume gets in someone's hand and you're looking to make a connection, then they'll stalk your LinkedIn, but they'll also stalk your Instagram and your Facebook account as well. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know if anybody can speak to that, but I feel like it's just so oversaturated.
Well, you're right. You're right to a certain extent. The job posting era, like post and pray, that's over. You know, success of I'm sure everybody heard that a couple of weeks ago, last week, Monster and Career Builder filed bankruptcy, right? So Monster and Career Builder, they filed bankruptcy. They're gone. So that type of mentality, posting and praying, which means from a recruiter point of view or an employer looking, that sort of method of finding candidates is gone. The way to find candidates or to find a job, you have to connect. You have to build relationships. You have to reach out to companies, research companies, target companies who you're interested in working for, and make those connections on LinkedIn with the HR people. That's how companies are going to find candidates today. 70 to 80% of candidates found today don't find their jobs through postings anymore. So that happened a couple of weeks ago with Monster. So you can imagine they were the biggest job board in the world. I remember them having postings on the Super Bowl, ads on the Super Bowl. You know, now they're gone. But they didn't move fast enough. They didn't move through the times. You know. Question.
That is funny that you say that, because when I was fresh out of college and aiming to move out of, I used to audit hotels when I was an undergrad. And when I was trying to move out of that because I wanted to pursue physical therapy, I walked in the hospital, rehab hospital, and I asked the lady at the front desk, can I talk to whoever is in HR? So I walked in, I had my resume, I shook somebody's hand, I looked them in the eye, and then I kept calling them. And I was like out of college, right? And then transition into how the world like changed a little bit. Then I was just pitching myself all the time online, and my resume getting lost in the shuffle. So it's funny that we go back then to how it used to be, where it's like, no, you need to make a connection and build a relationship. So with people realizing that now, how would they stand out now if multiple people will be doing that? You know, how do you make yourself? There's besides being the awesome human being that you are, how do you make yourself stand out if people know that's how I need to approach companies now? So let me knock on their door, call them, and
Right. So LinkedIn to a certain extent, but really truly networking. You have to be in the spaces where you want to make those connections. So in Rhode Island, for example, there are tons of like chamber events. If you want to be connected with somebody, you need to be in that space. So it's not it's not good enough just to reach out to them on LinkedIn. I've done it many times, and they don't know you from Adam. You need to be present. You need to be in those spaces, and it's going to be a combination of so many different things. It's going to be on LinkedIn. It's going to be reaching out to the HR person, but being in those spaces where they are as well. And it really truly is about referrals. There are so many people who get jobs through referrals. That's the key, because people want to do business with people they like, they know. People want to hire people that they know and they like. So that's really key as well. Like chamber events. So go ahead. So chamber events. Providence Chamber, Northern Rhode Island Chamber, Central Chamber. I think somebody mentioned Rhode Island Black Business Association. They have lots of events. There are specific, like for example, in Northern Rhode Island Chamber, there are offshoots. There's a Women Business Council. There's an executive search, an executive arm that are for executives. There's an emerging leaders. So these do cost to be a member, but you can ask the membership, and you can go as a guest, and you can just rotate between all these chamber events like every month, really truly, and not pay anything.
She was one of the speakers at Reba.
Yeah.
And I connected with her on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I just saw her, and she just said, we need to connect. This
Yes.
is the second time that I've saw
Yeah.
you out. So it does build connections, because
Yeah.
it's just me and myself. I added her on LinkedIn, and now, she's like, take my card, we need to connect. So
Yeah.
you can build relationships that way too.
Absolutely.
My question is, so what you're saying, so yes, there's the chambers and there's the events and all of those things. However, or I guess in my head, maybe not everyone is on that level yet. Those kind of are a little high level, maybe in some senses, in some arenas. Executive, as you talked to, then you have those individuals that are really just trying to get their foot in the door on an entry level type of role. You're absolutely right that it is, because I wanted to work for the city mayor's office, and no background whatsoever, but it was because of connection.
Yeah.
And then, yes, the Lord did it. He did, but the Lord did it. But yes, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Like, what would be your advice? My question was, what would be your advice to? You can't go. To Keisha talked about going to the hospital, and those days are over. But yet, there still needs to be connection. Like, what would be your advice for those that are beginners or entry level?
Okay, so dare I say connect with a good staffing firm. I mean, so we've been in business for 20 years. We're in Providence, and I'm speaking from
ago, many moons ago, almost 2 decades ago
Okay.
now. But they did help me get really good positions,
Yeah.
actually. A couple of positions through the hospital, working in different neurologist office through Lifespan. And so I really appreciated the opportunity through the staffing agency Randstad that I worked through because they worked with me to make sure that my resume was on point, and that
Yeah.
actually worked for me for like almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So they would give you an assignments, and if you did well, then that job was looking to hire you after that 90-day period. Then you can now be hired through the actual company. So
Right. Yeah, no, it's a great way for you for as a candidate to try out and test out the job. If you do it like a temp to perm, you're testing and doing a trial run on the job. And if you don't like it, you can ask for something else. I mean, it's not always the case you'll get something straight away, but you let your recruiter know that this is not something I like. But yeah, Randstad is a great reputation. They're the biggest staffing firm in the world. The advantage we have on someone like Randstad, and I've got to plug it here, that we're local. We've been here in Rhode Island for 20 years. My staff, there's 6 of us. We live here, we work here, we shop here, we go to school here. We're invested in our community, so we know our community inside out like no other. So that's the advantage. You working with a staffing firm, I can tell you about XYZ company or ABC company. I can tell you the history, I can tell you the culture, I can tell you, so that's the advantage of working with a small firm like us who's local.
And I can say right now, I work at Crossroads, and we just use a staffing agency in San Antonio for a girl for a leasing position. And when I looked at her resume, I was like, yeah, no. We interviewed her, and we were like, well, she's young, she can get around, she can handle the clients. We actually love her. We're waiting for her 90 days, and they might even buy her out.
Yeah.
So if she would apply through Crossroads, I would be like, absolutely not.
Yes.
Because you look at the resume, you look at it, and I'm like, no, she's kind of young. She doesn't stay places long enough. She hasn't been in the field long enough. If we didn't have this staffing agency, we would never look at it. And now we're like, we want to hire you. Like, you're on board. My VP is spending a lot of time with her to get her, trained so that when the time is up, and again, they might lay her out, she'll get a leasing position. She
Yeah.
has no experience in the field.
Yeah.
And now she'll get a leasing position, which will help her because she's young. So she'll be able to grow and move on. So the staffing agencies really are helpful.
Yeah.
We wouldn't look at them as
Right.
a regular agency.
Yeah, and then you're absolutely right. And one of the biggest advantages of using a staffing firm, working alongside an HR department, is that most HR departments don't have the capacity to recruit 24/7. We're doing that 24/7. That's our job. HR are doing employee relations, payroll, everything else but recruiting, or it's very minimal. But we're doing it 24/7. So again, great advantages of using a staffing firm, whether you're looking for staff or you're looking for a position. Yes. So we specialize just in purely administrative staffing. There are some agencies that do office administrative as well as warehouse and factory. We do purely office, and that could be anything from the $15 an hour mailroom staffer through to $80 an hour controller. And we do everything. And seriously, right now, that's the sort of jobs we have at the moment. We've just started working with the state of Rhode Island, so we're supplying their temporary staffing. So we're getting a variety of a real diverse range of positions. We work with different types of companies: medical, legal, accounting, finance, customer service, HR, marketing, you name it. Go ahead.
To understand this exchange over here.
What question?
It's just interesting. It's just interesting.
Oh,
Because he not giving a word from a lawyer. But it's just interesting. Like, I am so excited to hear about this, but also so upset about it at the same time. Because not even just about you and any of the others that exist, because I come out of the field of education and since high school, you know, working in schools. And so when you decide that you're going to step away from that, the idea of not having a job is like unheard of in our field, because everybody's looking for a job. We didn't hire staffing agency. I looked at the resume, I picked who I wanted, and we had an interview. And so that's in the field of education. But when you step out of the field of education, the only thing we heard that was super insulting for those in the professional world is, what was it, Back to Work Rhode Island, the way they pursued us when we were collecting unemployment or something like that. And it's like, wait, I know how to work. I'm a professional. I don't need you to tell me how to be a professional, you know? And so I'm excited to hear about it, but I think about so many people who are in hard-to-staff industries like education or, you know, anything else where we don't know anything about a staffing agency. Because when I looked at positions and I went to go meet with a job counselor, the way they pursued, do you know who I am? You know, the way they pursued it, they're like, oh, you have a child. Here's a position for $15 an hour. In what world? You understand what I'm saying? And so, I mean, this is exciting, also very upsetting, because I'm like, man, it's been almost 2 years now. You know, the Lord has me doing some other things, you know, and I'm not in that place, but still, it's been almost 2 years, and nobody's mentioned anything about a staffing agency, because in my mind's eye, it's a temp agency,
Yeah.
right?
And that's the biggest misconception. Temp agencies existed 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I remember when I first started in this industry, it was more so of a temp agency, but now companies are using staffing firms for more sophisticated ways, because predominantly all of our jobs are ultimately a permanent job. So they're using our services to test out somebody, to try somebody, or to recruit somebody, because they just don't have the time or the resources to do it themselves. And it is a misconception that so many individuals don't know what a staffing firm does. They always automatically a temp agency. Well, we do temp work, but really truly, I would say 80% of our jobs are permanent. Ultimately, you get a permanent job.
I guess that is
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
I guess I owe you an apology. Oh, my daughter knows. She knows, but I guess I owe you an apology. So please accept my apology. I need you to meet Dawn, okay? She has a great, awesome staffing team company.
Great. I can't remember where we were. So we talked about networking, right? Did we talk about researching and target companies? Don't just wait for jobs to come to you. Go after them. Make a list of companies that you're interested in working for. Look at your background. You know, if you've worked in, in education, and that's what you love, and you want to pursue that sort of field, look at the companies in the area that are maybe hiring, or maybe companies are not even necessarily hiring, but just targeting them, sending them do the old school way in terms of just sending them a unsolicited, resume and a cover letter. Follow them on LinkedIn. Set job alerts on platforms like Indeed, and tailor your applications and tailor your resume to each role, so they feel personal and not just generic. Then hopefully all the interviews will start rolling in, so you need to get prepared. You never want to wing an interview. Sorry.
Look, when you say tailor, so whatever that job description is, you
Okay. So plug the job description in there, plug your resume, and customize this resume to reflect this job. Without, obviously, you don't want to lie or be deceiving, but and then tailor it towards you think what looks like you.
I have a question. I know
Sure.
that you're saying to plug in our resume into ChatGPT. In a staffing agency, do they like review the resume as well? The reason why I'm asking is because just say like in the federal government, there's a certain format for writing your resume that's different from other things that I've seen. Like it literally has to have specific buzzwords. I think that of course they're included in the position description, but they're also looking at how it's formatted. I can't describe it, but it's very different from other resumes I've seen, and I work in federal HR. So I was wondering, is there like additional help in your agency for people who are doing that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
yeah,
Because I know nothing about I'm with the other
Okay.
people in the room. I've never heard of a
Jeez.
staffing
I'm
agency,
so gutted.
but yeah.
I have to. So I'm not really familiar with federal formatted resumes, but we absolutely do that in our staffing firm for all of our candidates. So we want to make sure this person is presented the best possible light. So we will a lot of the times redo the resume, not always, but we'll format it in a professional manner because we get resumes that look like I don't know, but we want to make sure that we get an interview for the candidate. So we want to. It's in our best interest to do that. So we a lot of the times then we'll share the resume that we sent to the company with the candidate. We give candidates advice as well on formatting resumes. We have so many individuals who come to us and they want to pivot and do something else in their career, and so we all suggest, as opposed to a chronological resume, you want a functional resume, so it will highlight your transferable skills. And so many people don't know about that, but it's really straightforward. So again, we absolutely, in order to get that person an interview, it's in our best interest to do that. Yeah. So resumes, and then your interviews. Practice your responses to the questions, and particularly practice behavioural questions. In terms of, tell me about a time when you had to be encountered a challenge, for example. That is very common. So again, you want to practice, and the old there is. Yes.
Never interviewed before, or it's been a while, do a mock interview with
Absolutely.
someone so you become comfortable with answering these questions. And you can also get these questions off online. There'll be general interview questions and then behavioral questions. So you can talk about a time. I just interviewed 2 people yesterday, so it could be a lot of questions that will throw you off for a moment. So having a mock interview is very important.
Absolutely, yeah. And just be mindful about your when you answer questions about weaknesses, you want to be creative when you talk about your weaknesses. We had a situation yesterday, one of our candidates interviewed for one of our jobs, and the client called us and said no. When we asked her weakness, she said, I can't multitask. And so I get it, but just be. And so it was a no. It was an absolute no.
It's task oriented.
And
My job, on my job, we had to interview 2 people yesterday, and the first thing even with the questions, she's like, well, don't they have benefits because of my health conditions? There's a lot of stuff that I can't do.
right. Yeah, that's it.
Why would you say that?
Yeah. Yeah.
working at Georgia Ports Authority, the first question was, tell me about yourself. Well, I've been married now for 16 years.
Yes. Yes.
I have 3 kids, and I just moved to Georgia, and I'm looking for a job. I just told you about myself.
Yeah.
That's not what they mean.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, so interviews, behavioral questions, obviously have some questions prepared for the interviewer, and not that about benefits or salary. And then, I mean, just really to finish up, I'm not quite sure what slide I'm on. No, it's perfectly fine. I mean, I just want to end up by saying, job searching can feel like a roller coaster. There are going to be highs and there are going to be lows. There's tons of rejections. It isn't personal. They're just redirection. And like I mentioned earlier, the more you interview, the more you apply for jobs, the more you'll know what you really want to do and what you don't want to do. Stay consistent with your efforts, set weekly goals for applications, networking and follow-ups, and build in rest and self-care because job hunting is a full-time job. And surround yourself with supportive people who remind you of your value and your worth. Slide, but be bold, be clear, be confident. The right opportunity is out there and it's waiting for someone exactly like you. So step into your next with purpose.
Woo! Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Any questions?
Don't need to be.
Okay.
So, my undergrad. Yeah.
That's fine. Perfect.
My undergrad is in human resource management, so I know about temporary agency and staffing agencies and all of that. And so, because I know those things, I assume, which is not good to assume, that everybody else, no, but everybody else do not. Probably apologize. Yeah. Have you had fun tonight? Have you enjoyed? We have learned, right?
Pretty good.
Yes, we have learned. I totally changed the script on Dawn, and she brought it. She accepted the assignment. You have a question?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Dawn, you are coming back again, so just,
absolutely.
when I call you, make sure you
Pick up.
you pick up. What is it?
Country.
Want to say thank you so very much. I really appreciate this. Like I said, my degree is in human resources, so I know a lot of what you say and everything, and I have been to many of temp agencies to get my foot in the door and all of that. But Dawn is really awesome. She and her team are very good. If you're looking for a job, she can help you to get that job. So connect with her now that you know. Knowing is half the battle. Connect with Dawn. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate you. Thank you. Okay? Hope you like the gift. Awesome. Alrighty. Woo! 2025 is in the books. Yeah! Woo! God, I thank you. I thank you because each night the people that have come up to speak and all of that, or the people who was here, is exactly what they needed. And so I really appreciate that. I'm not going to say more. Pastor, come on up. Woo!
On test. All right. Thank you. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Again, Miss Dawn, I want you to know that as Simona said, we're going to have you back, and we really enjoyed you. When people become, I believe in when people are exposed to information, y'all for coming. Thank you for having us. Being with us. I was gonna say, what was I gonna say? Yeah. So the objective and the goal. So I want to say this, and I didn't say it any other nights, and then we're going home. Our objective and goal here, it's not reflective in these settings, but we're gonna get there. This is our third year that we've done it. We skipped a year. 1 year we skipped a year, but this is our third time doing what we call the Family Matters Conference. The whole purpose of the Family Matters Conference is to create a space that will allow for not only our church but the community at large to come in and for us to address actual issues that are attacking or plaguing or that need to be addressed concerning the family. And it's not, and we first recognize that the family dynamic looks different for every family. And so we identify that, and then we say, okay, but while every family may look different, there's still a lot of common issues that exist among each family, and we need to address them, we need to attack them, we need to inform individuals, we need to give resources, and all of those things of that nature. So it's my endeavor. The Lord put this on my heart about 4 years ago. It's our endeavor for this to expand, for us to give inform more people about this, so that they can be empowered, and then they can walk away, and then when they hear about it, then they're like, oh my God, oh my God. It really isn't about us. I could care less, and so that's why this is not a thing where the pastor is up and the pastor is doing this and that. No. I sit back and allow for our beautiful coordinator, Evangelist Mona Rhodes. She's also our church administrator, to do these things, and so we're so grateful. What I want, last thing, is any information that you have for us that we can disseminate on behalf of city personnel, or that would be, that would be advantageous to give to other individuals. Then we would love to have that information, so that we can share that. I also want to thank God for, because this is our last night. Me and First Lady were just talking about it as we were sitting at these beautiful graphics. Not this one. that was nice. But there's these other graphics that you've been seeing with the actual individual's picture on, and the graphic that was done by our own evangelist Joan Rogers. And she didn't tell me she did it. I just know I know her work. And I know her work, and they were really great, and so I really appreciate her for allowing her skill and her work to shine through on doing those. I do want to recognize Sister Keisha. She did an amazing job on last night with health, wellness, getting that temple, holy focus. Holy focus, holy. Right, okay. So, all right. I'm geared up. I'm ready. Put me in the game, coach. I'm ready. Let's go. All right. So we're done tonight. Tomorrow. Everybody say tomorrow. We are going to, from our church members, of course, are going to arrive here at 9 a.m., but at 10 a.m., we're going to do our community day, which will be outside with weather permitting, outside with the bounty house, with the game truck, with the food, with the DJ, with the vendors from different companies. And we're going to have a whole bunch of fun. That's all we're going to do from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Have fun. You all are invited. Welcome to come. Invite somebody else. Tell somebody else. And that's what we're going to do tomorrow. We're just going to have fun and enjoy and be in the community and enjoy one another. So we invite you. Yes, we invite you to come and join us. All right. There's no cost or anything of that nature. Just asking everybody to have fun. All right. I did have a request, but she got a whole baby. I was like, is it going to be any face painting? But, who knows? The one time. All right. Oh yeah, yes. Elder Erica did face me last time. Yeah, that's right. Okay, we're standing. I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to talk anymore. Be like, oh man. All right. Glad twice. Glad you came. Glad to leave. Thank you all again for coming. We're just gonna pray a prayer, benediction, and then we're going to be dismissed from this place. Father, we thank you. We love you and we appreciate you.